Hey, do you all remember this?
We love our Disney villains, right? We love them. Their evil ambition gives us endless possibilities to tell brand new stories. Which is why I'm so excited to announce we are building a villain's land at the Magic Kingdom.
That was almost a year ago, and that's the only real information we've gotten on Villains Land since D23 Expo 2024. And now, we're moving forward. Land clearing has begun, preliminary steps are being taken to get that back half of the Rivers of America, the former Rivers of America, ready for this brand new Villains Land. Construction might start within the next year here. Maybe sooner? I don't know how construction works. That's me confiding in you. And while, as of right now, we don't really have any maps or any sort of plans, visible to us at least, of what is going where, what sort of attractions we can expect, or what sort of restaurants, what sort of entertainment, what the whole land is going to be, how it's going to be laid out. That's not really out there for the public yet. And so, in today's video, I figured why not use our imaginations a little bit. Now, while this is sort of blue sky, it's what I want in a Villain's Land, I'm going to try and keep it as realistic as possible, as grounded in reality as I can. So it's not going to be a super fantastical vision of what a Villain's Land could be. This is what I think is a very realistic expectation of what the Villain's Land will be. It won't be 18 different attractions with a Rise of the Resistance tier dark ride and a roller coaster and a dinner show, maybe even 3 bathrooms. Bathrooms are important. This is going to be as realistic as I can possibly make it. Maybe not down to the layout, but certainly down to the amenities and the attractions and what we could find inside of those attractions. Because let's be honest here, the Maleficent coaster is going to be half indoor, half outdoor. It's pretty obvious that's how Disney likes to tackle their roller coasters mostly nowadays. Tron goes outside. I like a good outdoor coaster. It gives the land some kinetic energy, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We're not talking about the coaster quite yet. Before I talk about entrances or pathways or restaurants, we need to lay down a few ground rules, a few rules that we need to follow all the way through the video to make this land as realistic as possible. Now, before we start, we gotta lay some ground rules. Disney has already confirmed that there will be shopping and dining in this land, because what would a Disneyland be without shopping and dining? You need those shops and you need those restaurants. Also the restrooms. Don't forget those restrooms. That's actually very, very important when it comes to theme park design. But the land will also have, confirmed, 2 major attractions, right? That's 2 major attractions. I'm assuming they mean e-ticket. And just by looking at the concept art that we have now, one of them is going to be a roller coaster. Potentially a Maleficent themed roller coaster. Now, while it is a Villain's Land, the roller coaster might not just be Maleficent themed, it might be more than one villain, but we do see the dragon version of Maleficent there in the background, and the thorns acting as the sort of track for the coaster. The thick sort of black briars that Maleficent conjures in the film. So we do have to incorporate this Maleficent villain's roller coaster into our plans somehow. The second rule is that it has to connect all the way around the Rivers of America back to the Haunted Mansion. Now, it hasn't really been confirmed anywhere that that is what's going to happen, that's going to be the case, but for a lot of guests, half of the appeal of this brand new state-of-the-art Villains Land is that you will finally be able to walk all the way around Magic Kingdom without having to turn around at some point, reaching the end of a pathway. That used to be a problem at Big Thunder Mountain. You could follow the pathway from anywhere in the park, it all connects until you get to the end of Frontierland at Big Thunder Mountain. You'd have to turn completely around and walk the other direction. It's not really a big problem at Disneyland. If you were to sort of overlay Disneyland on a map of the Magic Kingdom, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland is sort of where they're planning on building the Villains Land. And that loops all the way from Bayou Country back to Fantasyland and Frontierland. So you can keep going, you can walk in circles all day if you want to. That's going to be the case with Villains Land, so it has to connect. So the rules for this video are: 1. Include the Maleficent roller coaster and 1 other major attraction. 2. Have the land layout make sense in a theme park crowd flow sort of way. 3. Make sure it connects all the way back around Piston Peak, formerly the Rivers of America, to the Haunted Mansion. And 4. Try not to go overboard. While armchair imagineering is really fun to do, I don't want to go too big with this. I want to be as realistic with my predictions or sort of layout for this land as I possibly can be. We're not going to do 2 major attractions and 14 smaller attractions. You gotta have maybe 2 majors and 1 minor attraction. You know, that sort of thing. Now first we want to get an idea of how large this land is going to be. Where exactly along the rivers of America is it going to be located? And we have a few permits that'll give us some clues as to where this land is going to go specifically, but I also have to say thank you. I have to reach out to my friend Jack at DSNY Newscast. If you haven't subscribed to DSNY Newscast, please do so now. Jack has previously pored over all of these permits and has a sort of better idea, definitely better than I would, of where this villain's land is going to be in relation to where the rivers are now and where the Cars expansion to Frontierland is going to be. I'm going to make a sort of work in progress map of where I think villain's land is going to be located by looking at these 2 different sources, but you can also use your imagination here. It can go wherever you want to, as long as it's back beyond Big Thunder Mountain. Beyond Big Thunder Mountain is the most important part of this. So let's take an aerial view of the land we're going to be talking about in this video, and some of the already existing landmarks to sort of better orient where we are. Big Thunder Mountain being located here, the Haunted Mansion located here, and the railroad that encircles both of them located here. Now let's map out Piston Peak, the Cars expansion coming to Frontierland. That will be the front half of the Magic Kingdom expansion, backing up currently to what we know as Frontierland, the single street that Frontierland is at Walt Disney World. Not quite the same at Disneyland, but it's still good. Okay, the Country Bear Show is great. And by looking at the only sort of really detailed piece of concept art for Piston Peak that we have as of right now, the pathway around Piston Peak seems to sort of veer off back toward the Haunted Mansion and then further out, most likely towards Villain's Land, a little bit before where the rivers of America curved back when they were open. So about 3/4 of the way along Big Thunder Mountain. Not necessarily past the mountain itself, but a little bit before that. So based on that, here is my proposed map of where Piston Peak would be located and, more importantly, where it would end, including that sort of loop around back to the Haunted Mansion and the pathway to the Villain's Land up there at the top, freeing up potentially, if they don't want to dig beyond the berm, all of this space right here as land for the Villains expansion, and that's quite a sizable plot of land. Now, take in mind you have to account for backstage entry for cast and restaurant loading and unloading, gift shop loading and unloading, which makes me think it won't connect back through to Fantasyland, even though it's very close to the Village House right here in this little sort of area. It is a lot of maintenance back there that you can't really move for restaurants like Be Our Guest and Gaston's. So while it would be cool if it connected all the way back through Fantasyland, I don't think that it's going to. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. Everything you see highlighted in green here is not usable theme park space. We're going to have to fit the usable park space within that. And that means, of course, 2 attractions, 2 e-ticket attractions. Now, looking at the concept art as a clue in this is almost completely pointless. There's not really any visible pathways. You see some guests in the background here and here, but that doesn't really connect back to that walkway we saw coming from Piston Peak past the Haunted Mansion. It doesn't make sense. This is definitely blue sky. This does not represent the final layout of the land at all. But that being said, I do think they want a vista of the land, one of the views of the land, to be very reminiscent of this, with the Maleficent roller coaster and her castle in the same sort of field of view to give that grand sort of reveal to the Villain's Land. And if I had to guess the way most people will be entering this land, I think it will be from the Haunted Mansion side, from Fantasyland, and not from the Big Thunder Mountain side. While I love Adventureland and I like Walt Disney World's Pirates of the Caribbean, I think the Fantasyland area of Magic Kingdom, and then back toward Liberty Square, sees a lot more guest flow over the course of a day than Adventureland back through Big Thunder Mountain does. So maybe this main vista will be coming into Villain's Land from the Haunted Mansion, with the coaster on our left-hand side being closer to Big Thunder Mountain, and the castle being set further back into the land. So, here? Maybe here? Then we'll have the sort of dark villains village located on our right-hand side when we enter the land from the Haunted Mansion. So think gift shops, think restaurants. That's where all of these guests are located. Again, the pathways don't make any sense. Pay no attention to the pathways. So as the world's #1 fan of looping pathways, I think our main thoroughfare, the main pathway through Villains Land where most of the guest foot traffic is going to be seen, might look something like this. A big horseshoe. Now don't worry, it's not going to be just this. There will be other paths leading off to attractions, shops, dining, and most importantly, restrooms. This is just going to be the biggest of them, and it's going to be where you get from point A to point B in Villains Land. I'm going to simplify the path a little bit, just make it look like this so it's not completely taking up like a third of the land, and now we get to talk about the fun stuff. Now let's talk about the Maleficent roller coaster for a second. I think it's going to be, in my opinion, a hybrid coaster, an indoor-outdoor coaster. It might not have a giant gravity building like Cosmic Rewind or Rock and Roller Coaster have, but it will go through some tunnels, through some show scenes similar to Big Thunder Mountain right next door, or Expedition Everest at Animal Kingdom. Now, Expedition Everest is 6.5 acres. That's pretty big. Big Thunder Mountain, though, on the other hand, is 2.5. So I think it's going to be around a similar size to Big Thunder Mountain, because 6.5 acres is about half the land. That's a lot of room. 2.5 is a lot more realistic. And yes, of course, the Maleficent Castle is going to be the weenie for the land. It's going to be the icon, but it's also going to be the entrance or the queue for this roller coaster. So you can go through Maleficent's castle. It'll be cool to see the goons. The goons will be in there. Maybe the Corridor of Goons from Disneyland will make a reappearance at Walt Disney World for the very first time, and all my Florida friends can experience the Corridor of Goons. But think 2.5 acres, think a hybrid indoor-outdoor coaster, not a huge box show building like you see with Cosmic Rewind. Don't worry about that. So let's move a roller coaster that's a similar size to what we're looking for, Big Thunder Mountain, into Villains Land and see how that stacks up. And if we rotate it a little bit just to get it fitting into the land, alongside the railroad, I think it works. I don't think it's too big. It takes up most of the left-hand side of the land, yes, but it works. I outlined Big Thunder Mountain, took an average of that area and just made it into a big circle and then sort of reshaped it a little bit to make it take up a little bit less of the total landmass and have the coaster extend a little bit towards Big Thunder Mountain, and was left with this. I think this is a bit more of an agreeable size for a roller coaster without taking up too much of the land. It's still around 2 to 2.5 acres, and it's on your left-hand side on the way to Big Thunder Mountain looking at this piece of concept art. It still sort of echoes this. Again, it's not perfect, but it's close. Which would mean, by the way, my friends, that the castle / queue / facade for the ride would go about here. And then, of course, you'd need another walkway, another main thoroughfare leading up to Maleficent's castle to, get in line for the coaster. And so I devised this bad boy. Look at that, I'm a pro construction planning consultant. Nobody can do what I do. But that pathway will also lead us into a sort of secondary area of Villains Land, or a primary area, depending on which part you prefer, the Villains Village. Village. Nah, it doesn't work. That's already the word. Now, the Village will be your premier destination for all of your shopping and dining needs, as well as the gateway, or the beginning of the queue, I should say, to the second e-ticket ride. We'll get to that in a second, but I'm hoping there's more than one dining location in this land. I think 2 quick service and 1 table service is the magic combination. That way you have 2 restaurants for people who don't necessarily want to sit down and make a reservation, and 1 for those who really want to, who want to compete for that reservation at 6 a.m. And so up at the top in this little outcropping, I guess, we'd have a dining location very similar in size to Be Our Guest, right across the way in Fantasyland. And then down at the bottom, quick service number 1 and quick service number 2. Hopefully one of these is serving meat skewers and meat on sticks like Bengal barbecue. Disney World doesn't have enough of that. Call it Scar's Skewers or something. He's a villain. And do you remember the Beacon Barrel? Do you all know about the Beacon Barrel? I'm sure you've heard of it. Listen, folks, I know some people are against bars at Disneyland or the Magic Kingdom, but it's time to face facts, okay? Themed bars that sell alcohol make a lot of money. That, and they're also really, really cool. Oga's Cantina at Disneyland is awesome, okay? And Beacon Barrel looks like it's going to be amazing. And what better bar would there be than a seedy, gross old tavern where all the villains gather together to tell their stories, and each of the villains has their own sort of themed room. I don't want to say the poison apple from Shrek 2, but I'm also saying the poison apple from Shrek 2. That's what I'm thinking in my head. So yes, whether you like it or not, there's going to be a Villains Tavern in the Village. The Villains Village. That's, I'm just going to keep calling it the Village. And of course, this is a Disney park. You can't have dining without a little bit of shopping. I made a little dining row right here, similar to the stores on Main Street USA, how they do look like different buildings from the outside, but once you go inside, it's all one sort of big building. This is what that's going to look like. This probably won't be the only shopping location in the land. Obviously, you got to have a gift shop at the end of the roller coaster and at the end of the dark ride that we're going to talk about here in a second, but this is the main shopping destination. If you don't want to go on any rides or go to any specialty places, this is going to have the bulk of your merchandise. Now, okay, let's get to the ride. I'm just going to say right now, right up front, that I don't have any insider information. This isn't a rumor. This is just armchair imagineering. This is all coming from my brain. But if I predict this correctly, and I think I actually might, there's a chance that I'm completely on the money here. I will collect payment just through my Patreon, Disney. If you just want to pledge $1 a month, you can do that. But the second attraction in Villains Land, aside from the roller coaster, Disney confirmed there would be a second attraction. I believe is going to be a dark ride, like Rise of the Resistance, or maybe the new Coco dark ride that they're building. Maybe not necessarily a boat ride, but think trackless. Maybe some sort of hybrid ride system. We don't know that much quite yet. We're not quite there. But what we do know, or what I know, is that this ride will feature a lot of villains. Not just one villain like the Maleficent roller coaster. It's not going to be Gaston themed, or Hades themed, or Scar themed, or Queen of Hearts themed. It's going to be all of the villains. All of them are going to get together, use their abilities, use their power to try and turn maybe all of the Magic Kingdom into a dark, twisted land just like Villains Land. And it will be up to us and a certain wizard to stop them. I don't know if the wizard is going to tie into it, but let's talk about this now, because I'm pretty sure I'm right with this one. What else could they do? So obviously not every Disney villain is going to get their own ride. Some of the villains have to share a ride, and by some I mean all of them except for Maleficent, the mistress of all evil. If I had to choose one Disney villain to get her own ride, it would be Maleficent. But this dark ride is going to be a sort of mashup of all of the Disney villains together. And I think the queue, the entrance, the facade will all be located in the Villains Village area. I don't know what the facade would be. I think maybe like a broken down old church would be really, really cool, with like an old bell tolling from the steeple up top. That would be really, really cool. Maybe we secretly discover one of the villains' hideout. Either way, it doesn't matter. We enter the queue and wind our way through the tunnels underneath the village and underneath the entirety of the Magic Kingdom. Not the utilidors, but just, underground tunnels, sewers kind of things. Hopefully it doesn't smell as bad as the utilidors smell in some spots. Before we arrive at the pre-show and the villains tell us their plan, and we need someone, something, some character to guide us through this mission of stopping the villains, I think the wizard from The Sorcerer's Apprentice from Fantasia, Yen Sid, would be a very, very good sort of mentor figure for this ride. If the villains are using the power of dark magic to twist and pervert the Magic Kingdom, why can't Yen Sid and we, the guests, use our light magic to help fix this problem and drive the villains back into their own corner, to contain them in the Villains Land? I think the odds of an attraction in this vein, maybe not with Yen Sid, but with all of the villains coming together to do something bad, is almost guaranteed. Now, as for ride type, you know me. If you're watching this channel, maybe you don't. I love a good boat ride, and if we're going through the tunnels underneath the village, and maybe even the sewers that don't smell too bad, that would be a very thematically appropriate setting for a boat ride. You climb into some sort of like Charon-style barge that begins moving on its own through the power of Yen Sid's magic, and the ride begins. However, I know not everybody loves a boat ride. Those people would be crazy. They're high capacity, and they smell so good. I think maybe a trackless ride vehicle might be more in the realm of possibility. Disney loves building these trackless rides nowadays, so maybe a trackless sort of conveyance thing that still moves through the power of Yen Sid's magic, or maybe our magic. Maybe it was within us the whole time. Or maybe it's just sensors embedded into the ground. But either way, that would be a nice thematically appropriate ride vehicle also. I think these are kind of the only two that I would like. An Omnimover is always fun, but I don't know how effective it would be. And of course, we already have a roller coaster. We don't need another thrill ride. Maybe we could do a slot car ride. I could settle for that because Test Track does speed up and slow down. So maybe if they wanted some high speed segments in their ride, they could do a slot car style. but ideally it's going to be a boat or a trackless dark ride, and it's gonna have some animatronics. It's gotta have a Disney villain animatronic, one for each of the villains. And so zooming in on the village, you can see that the facade, the entrance, and the queue take up only a small part of the land, where the show building behind it is a lot bigger. Actually, I think it's a little bit bigger than the Haunted Mansion. You can see here the Haunted Mansion on the left, and It's a Small World unlabeled on the right. And then if I were to zoom out, you can see that it's a very similarly sized show building. So you could fit a similar sized ride to the Haunted Mansion or Small World. Small World, of course, is a boat ride, just saying. And that about fills out our Villains Land. There is one thing that is still bothering me though, and it's this area right here. I don't know what I'm gonna put there. Food carts are a possibility, snack carts, but Disney said 2 major attractions. They never said 2 attractions total, and the kids need something to do in this terrifying Villains Land also, so why not a couple of flat rides? Something to add a bit more kinetic energy to the Villains Land. Even though the roller coaster does go outside, you can never have enough kinetic energy. Maybe this could be the loading area for some sort of people moving type attraction that would give you bird's eye views of the Villains Land, taking you through the roller coaster, through some of the queues, and through the Villains Village. Maybe, just maybe, my friends, Villains Land needs its own People Mover. And then, of course, you can put a spinner ride in there for the children, for the flat ride fans. Now, I'm hearing you already in the comments. Disney World gets 2 People Movers now, while Disneyland doesn't even have one. Listen, I agree. Disney World doesn't need another People Mover. However, I will accept another Disneyland People Mover. That's okay by me. Now, does my People Mover track look like I just threw spaghetti at my screen and then traced around it? Yes, I'm sure the Disney Imagineers, if they wanted to, which they should want to, were to make their own variation of a Villains Land People Mover, it would look a whole lot more symmetrical and a lot cleaner than this, but I did want to sort of make it go through all of the big show scenes and the set pieces in the land. Now, there are a few more empty spots not filled out on this map. You have to account for backstage areas, obviously, but maybe you can add 1 or 2 sort of smaller attractions to this land. I want to hear some opinions and thoughts as to what it should be and where you would put it on my map. Not on the actual site plan that's sort of been revealed, but on my map. My wonderful, beautiful Microsoft Paint map. Look at it, it's gorgeous. Now, a lot of the Villains Land is still sort of up in the air. I'm sure even at Imagineering right now, they're still sort of nailing down what exactly they want in this land, sort of finalizing the plans before they actually start building it, probably within the next 2 years. So Disney doesn't even know what's going there quite yet, aside from what they actually have shown, and that's the roller coaster. There's going to be a Maleficent roller coaster, maybe not even Maleficent. There will be a roller coaster, but other than that, nobody really knows what's going in here unless you're working at Imagineering right now, in which case, I'm excited to see what you have in store, my friend. But either way, how would you lay out your Villains Land, my friend? If you got to Blue Sky Imagineer a brand new Villains Land for the Magic Kingdom, what 2 major attractions would you put in the land? What sort of smaller flat rides or people moving attractions would you put into the land? And what would the themes of all of the shops and the restaurants and the rides be? I want to hear your sort of armchair Imagineering plan for this Villains Land down in the comments below. I know I'm going to see a Kronk pull the lever coaster in there somewhere. It's a wonderful idea. I am just calling that out right now. I know there's going to be plenty of that down there. But all of the sort of theorizing that I've done in this video remains to be seen. I was going solely off of the 1 press release and the 1 very vague piece of concept art that Disney has supplied to us at this point. And now I'm turning it over to Disney. It's no longer up to me to blue sky a land. It's up to you to show me more definite, concrete concept art. I actually just want to see the concept art. I don't care what you call it. I don't care what the rides are going to be. Show me where the pathways are. Show me where the bathrooms are. And then, and only then will you finally have the chance to live up to the amazing teaser that you released to all of us last year around this time at the D23 Expo. Disney, the ball is in your village. Village. No, I like village. I think I'm gonna stick with village. Welcome, foolish mortals. It's now spooky season. The Halloween time at Disneyland has officially started, so it's essentially Halloween now. If you enjoyed this video of me talking about what I would put in the Magic Kingdom Villains Land, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you liked this video, you like this sort of armchair imagineering sort of thing, hit the subscribe button. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you had a fun time watching it. I know the map was a little bit cobbled together, but I personally think it ended up looking pretty good. I color-coded everything. It was very organized. I left room for the backstage stuff, which I tried really hard to do. I'm satisfied with what I did. A very, very big thank you, as always, to all of my supporters over at patreon.com/offhanddisney. You can see their names scrolling by on your screen right now. They are the ones who help keep this channel chugging along. They keep it moving. They support me in what I do, and so I can get into the parks, or I can go to D23 Expo and see these things, report these things firsthand, give you my takes. It helps out the channel a lot. If you want to join their ranks, you absolutely can. All you gotta do is follow the link in the description down below to my Patreon campaign and pledge even just $1 a month. If you want to pledge just the $1, you can. You can go higher if you want to. It gets you access to early videos. And if you want to get your name in the credits higher up in a different tier, you can pledge to those tiers accordingly. Gold, of course, is where all of my best friends are, but everybody on Patreon is my friend if you want to join their ranks. Again, it will be down in the link in the description. However, you do not have to pledge on Patreon. There is no pressure at all. If you want to follow me for free on other social media sites, I am on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. Sometimes there's some weird extra wacky content over there, so if that sounds like it might be interesting to you, you can head over there. But that, my friends, is the end of this video, the end of this sort of longer than usual end card. I hope it wasn't too long. I like to ramble sometimes. Thank you all so much for watching. This next month is going to be very interesting. It's going to be very new. I'm going a different sponsorship direction than I normally do. I'm very excited to get into it with you all. You'll see more later on. It's going to be great. I mean, come on, we're in spooky season already. It's going to be wonderful. I'm going to get some spooky videos going. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. See you in the next video. Goodbye.